What if we say that certain factions and parties in South Africa want to break and divide the country? Well, that's hard to believe, but you would have heard about Cape Independence in the news. More and more people are talking about separating Cape Town from South Africa and making it a new country in the region.
So I'm here today to tell you enough is enough, and it's time for a revolution. My name's Phil Craig, and I'm going to be leading a new political party called the Referendum Party, which is going to launch on the 9th of November. The Referendum Party is a battle cry. It's a call to arms. It's the start of the next chapter in our history. As South Africans, we've been shamed into silence. Being called racist has become a shock collar that's used to control us. We've reached the point where nobody wants to say, the emperor is naked. Well, the emperor is naked. Our country is run by arrogant, incompetent, corrupt imbeciles. Cyril Ramaphosa might be my president on paper, but in my heart, and in the hearts of many listening today, he is the lead clown in the world's least funny circus. Our government is a total disgrace, and in the Western Cape, the majority of us have never once in 30 years voted for it. And that government cannot and must not get a free pass just because it's black. And neither should the majority of black voters who repeatedly insist on electing it simply because they're too racist to vote for a party led by somebody of a different race.
The issue of Cape Independence is a threat to everybody. Cape Independence is equivalent to putting an Israel in South Africa. Because once that Israel is established and the Cape Colony establishes itself as it did in the 1800s, you will see that the West will arm it. They will give it nuclear weapons. They'll give it weapons to start attacking its neighbors. And guess whose neighbors? It's South Africa. So that they can begin to take land once again, as they did when the British and the Voortrekkers came here.
It's completely understandable that South Africans are very frustrated by a failed national government and an opposition that appears to be comfortable in being an opposition in perpetuity. That is what has brought about the frustration. But this particular idea to say that the solution is secession is completely offensive. And most fundamentally because it's based on this elitism and segregationist kind of idea that the Western Cape is distinct from the rest of South Africa, that it can survive economically and socially separately from South Africa, which I think is entirely false. But, I think it's based on an experience of certain people in the Western Cape as well, because there's no doubt that those who are arguing for secession tend to live on a particular side of the mountain, and they have a particular experience of Western Cape and City of Cape Town government.
However, one wonders why such a radical demand is being presented. What are the motives behind the demand to break the country's capital off the country? Above all, who are the people behind such a demand, and how do they consider themselves different from the rest of South Africa? Let's find that out in this video. Cape Independence, also known as Cape Sit, is a political movement pushing for autonomy for the Western Cape Province from South Africa. Some proposals extend to parts of the Eastern and Northern Cape Provinces. Put simply, they want to break Cape Town off from South Africa and make it an independent country. But who's behind the Cape Independence movement? Well, its story is quite fascinating. The Cape Independence Party, formerly known as the Cape Party, is a political entity in South Africa committed to achieving Cape independence through constitutional and legal means. Initially boasting around 1,000 members across South Africa in 2009, the party's official membership figures are not publicly disclosed. Currently, the party holds 2 seats on the Cape Town City Council. But what's really interesting about the party is the way it was formed. Originating from a Facebook group in 2007, the party is led by Jack Miller, a Cape Town white entrepreneur. On March 17, 2009, the party's website was marred by vandals, displaying an image of a black devil and questionable phrase. Party leader Jack Miller suggested that the attack, requiring substantial funding and resources, may have been orchestrated by one of South Africa's 2 major political parties, the African National Congress or the Democratic Alliance. The incident was investigated by the IEC but yielded no conclusive findings. In 2010, the Cape Party announced its support for the Thembu clan, whose chief expressed a desire for autonomy over the clan's territory east of the Fish River. This initiative was proposed by King Buyelakaya Dalindyebo, following his 15-year imprisonment for violent crimes. However, the plan was temporarily suspended after internal deliberations within the royal family. Later, in 2017, the Cape Party initiated legal action concerning a poster featuring the words "F fuck white people" in bold black and white letters, seeking to classify it as hate speech. This poster had been on display since 2016 as part of an exhibit titled "The Art of Disruptions" at a gallery in Cape Town. The court later ruled that the poster was not hate speech but within the context of an art exhibition. But this showed that the Cape Independence Party was trying to appeal to white people and use the narrative of hate speech against them to justify separating Cape Town. To put it more simply, the party appeared to be safeguarding white people in Cape Town and making a country out of it at their will. During various incidents, the Cape Independence Party tried to give the only solution of breaking Cape Town off South Africa to end all the problems. Later, the 2021 election showed what the public thought about the party. The Cape Party received a total of 17,881 votes overall and secured only one seat in the city of Cape Town. Even though the Cape Independence Party is determined to get independence, constitutional law scholars like Pierre DeVoe argue that the Cape Party cannot achieve secession without initiating a revolution. As the Constitution establishes a unitary state, he contends that threatening the country's unity would amount to treason. The Cape Party disputes this argument by citing a statement from the National Prosecuting Authority regarding a secession ordinance submitted by the Abathembu in 2010. According to the NPA statement, secession is not a crime and is considered a political matter. The Cape Party has expressed its intention to seek consensus with major political parties in the Western Cape, such as the Democratic Alliance. In response, Democratic Alliance Federal Executive Chairperson James Self played down the Cape Party's significance, asserting that it is not a party we take seriously. It's because it's quite hard to tell why the party was formed in the first place. Even though the party has created a manifesto of its own, the fundamental objectives and values on which a party stands seem quite weak. This can be understood by the fact that the party started from a Facebook group. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Africa's geopolitics, economy, and changing landscape. Let's continue now. But one question arises here. Why did they choose Cape Town and not any other area? Well, demographically, the Western Cape Province stands out as the most ethnically diverse region in South Africa, with no single racial group dominating. The population includes a significant number of colored individuals, a diverse group with ancestral connections to Africa, Europe, and Southeast Asia. While Afrikaans is the primary language for nearly half of the Western Cape's residents, substantial minorities also speak isiXhosa and English. Due to this diversity, the supporters of Cape independence want to have a separate country where this diversity can be preserved, and that has nothing to do with the rest of South Africa. This appears to be selfish. What's more, advocates contend that South Africa's current economic policies impede growth and development. They suggest that an independent Cape, embracing a more economically liberal approach, would achieve greater prosperity. However, they are ignoring the fact that without the rest of South Africa, it will not be possible for Cape Town to survive. Therefore, separating a city from the country is never a solution to the economic problem. Rather, it means running away from the problems instead of resolving them with consensus. We have not seen this in any other country, where a city gets separated from a country simply because the country is in an economic crisis. That's betrayal and desertion.
It's constitutionally offensive and historically offensive in South Africa to say that the only solution for the people of the Western Cape is to secede from the Republic of South Africa. We live under a constitutional democracy. That constitution talks about 9 provinces, it talks about a sovereign South Africa, and actually we are here to unite South Africans. The idea that the only thing that can be done to help the Western Cape is to divide South Africans is offensive to us.
However, some proponents highlight the entrenched racial divisions in South Africa, citing polling data showing differing views on national belonging across racial groups in the Western Cape. They oppose race-based legislation like Black economic empowerment, arguing it unfairly discriminates against many Western Cape residents, particularly the colored community. They advocate for an independent Cape that rejects such laws and racial classifications. What's more, advocates point to the civil unrest in eastern and northern South Africa in July 2021 as evidence of social instability. Western Cape residents, perceiving their province as better governed, share this sentiment. Supporters of Cape independence argue that an independent Cape would provide enhanced governance and stability. However, Despite this assertion, questions arise about whether the Western Cape's elevated murder rates align with the perceived stability. On the other hand, some critics argue that remedial secession is an extreme measure, usually reserved for former colonies or when a people endure extreme prejudice. Thus, they argue that self-determination does not necessarily equate to secession. Additionally, despite references to international law in the South African Constitution and Bill of Rights, international law lacks a specific right or legal framework for secession. Even criticism has been directed at the Cape Independence movement, particularly regarding allegations of racism. Some critics argue that the movement aims to establish a white ethno-nationalist state and resurrect the apartheid system. This argument seems quite strong because the Cape Independence Party aims to establish a separate Cape Town with no proposed objectives about how it will be run. This argument suggests that the party's push for Cape independence is motivated by a desire to revive apartheid, a system marked by institutionalized racial segregation and discrimination that was abolished in South Africa in the early 1990s. Critics who support this argument often draw parallels with historical events and underscore the demographic makeup of the Western Cape, where Cape Town is situated. They argue that the party's promotion of self-governance in the Western Cape could lead to policies that favor specific racial or ethnic groups, mirroring the practices of governance during the apartheid era. Critics argue that a constitutional amendment would be necessary because Section 235 of the South African Constitution, while recognizing the right of self-determination of any community sharing a common cultural and language heritage, does not mandate the National Assembly to uphold this right. Consequently, critics contend that a referendum would lack binding authority and lacks a framework for secession. Opponents of the Cape Independence movement suggest that even if a successful referendum were conducted, the national government would refuse to acknowledge the outcome and could deploy the military to assert control over the region, potentially sparking civil unrest. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If yes, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: African politics, economy, and increasing power. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.
Tell us what you think in the comment section. Like and share the video, and subscribe so that you don't miss any of our African videos. It's the best way to support us.